If you're new here, this is Unpopular T. I'm Taj. I'm not here to win friends or be politically correct. My goal is to inform based mostly on my personal experiences with some facts sprinkled here and there. The tea of the day is Women of the Philippines, Part 2. Now, let's get into it. Are the women of the Philippines fast? So I remember watching a video about the pace here in the Philippines referred to as island time. Basically, things move much slower than we may be accustomed to coming from some major cities in the US or wherever else in the world. However, when it comes to the dynamic between a man and a woman, I've noticed things move much, much quicker. So what I mean by that is I've had some instances in person where I'd be conversing with some ladies and then they'd ask me, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend? Do you want a girlfriend?" And whoever was in front of me at the time, they would just straight up tell me, "Oh, I like you." Now, this all happened within the first day of me meeting them, right? The first few moments. Now, I don't want to discredit any of the women who may have truly meant it, but in my mind, I'm like, you don't even know me. And I joke around, I'd be like, yo, I could be the biggest jerk. I could be a serial killer for all you know. You know what I'm saying? But, that's just, it is what it is. It's been my experience so far. Now, online is a completely different ball game. So shorties will tell you whatever they think you want to hear within moments. And they'll tell you they like you or they love you or babe, honey, whatever, within moments. In my opinion, obviously, there's an underlying motive here. I don't believe it, but I mean, hey, if you want to boost up your own ego, do so at your own peril. Polygamy. I give this a 5 out of 10. All right, so I'm tapping into uncharted territory with this one, but it seems worth mentioning based on what I get asked and how I see people moving out here. So on one hand, you have people who are serial daters, meaning they date a lot and either don't want to settle or don't settle or haven't for whatever reasons. On the other hand, you have tons of people who claim they want to be or who are exclusive. So in both scenarios, from what I hear and what I see, a lot of people want to have fun, obviously. So for the serial daters, I've heard some guys say things like, "I'm having dinner with my girl." Then the next day they got another girl. And hey, they're playing the game their way, whatever. Now, whether the women are cool with that or not is one thing, but in my mind and in my experiences, as long as a woman is supported financially, she usually doesn't mind sharing. Now, let's talk about the other side of this. So the people I see who are exclusive, that is dating or married, I hear instances where the dudes or the women will cheat and often are forgiven in the marriage cases. Now, for the dating couples, more specifically for the foreigners dating Filipinas, I hear dudes having multiple partners, but usually keeping a main on their roster. I mean, for me, I was chatting with a young woman who broke down her past relationship with a foreigner who traveled, I guess, in between the Philippines and another Asian country. And she told me that apparently he told her that he selects them and collects them. So in other words, she knew about the other woman and she was cool with that as long as the other women were, in her words, clean. Now, in my situation with this person, she knew about, other women I was chatting to and the same thing. She was like, "Oh, I'm completely cool with that. Like, if you want to go out and, date me and date, whoever else, you can do that if you want to. Just, make sure she's clean or whatever." And I was like, okay. Now, I'm not really in a position where I want to be dating. So if I was, maybe that's something to consider. But this is why I give it like a 5 out of 10. So it's like a 50-50 case depending on whoever you're talking to or whoever you meet. And in my opinion, I feel like transparency is the best policy to avoid all that extra stuff if that's what you want to do when you come out here. So for hooking up, I give this an 8 out of 10. Now, this may go for a lot of places in the world, but I can only speak from my experiences in the US and the Philippines. You come across a lot of women who say things like, "I'm not here to hook up," or "If you're looking to hook up, just keep it moving." All those types of things. Now, I believe that very few of these women actually mean it. So what I hear when they say things like that is, if I find you entertaining, attractive, essentially pushing all my social dynamic hot buttons enough, then I'll sleep with you. So I see it like sales, like a smoke screen objection designed to like weed out the meek, the people who aren't really, here with their heart in it, Needless to say, I have encountered several women who've used that line, and I guess I pushed the right buttons. I don't know. But don't get it twisted. People, they feel what they feel, they like what they like, and there's no shame in that. I just wish females in general across the world were just more upfront with their wording and say what they mean. Even just people in general, right? Now, if you remember from part 1 of this video, I mentioned that some women brought up the fact of courting, which is cool. Some women still appreciate and believe in that, which is why I didn't give this a full-blown 10 out of 10. Foreign attractiveness. This gets a 7 out of 10. Now, it's tough to gauge, the reason being that there's obviously way more Filipinos than foreigners here, and the majority of the couples I see, the men and the women, they're both Filipino. I do see some foreigners here when I go to the malls and leave my condo or go wherever. However, it's usually the older gentlemen that are with the Filipinas, but not all of them. Because there's a good amount of old dudes that are just walking the street, doing their thing, hitting the bars, doing what old dudes do, right? Now, with this topic, what it really breaks down to is where the foreigner is from and the foreigner's skin tone and color, because there is a preference here. Now, I'm not about to get into all the details of that. I'm going to save it for a completely other video that I'm doing. But I hear a lot of the women here, they openly talk about the Filipino men. And I'm not about to get into all that here either. That's for another time and space. But what it comes down to, I believe, is that maybe some women are just tired of shenanigans, or maybe someone in their family went through it and they're just learning from their experiences. And I believe that would make them more open to the idea of getting with a foreigner. And then there's also that, statistically speaking, the foreigners that come here are making more money on average than a local. And, you know, women love money. I mean, security, occupation. I give this a 7 out of 10. Now, this comes down to where you're meeting the woman really. When you talk about online browsing, a lot of the women I find are unemployed. So I'm not sure what the exact numbers are behind this, but I can tell you that a majority of the women I see in my area, they all look like they're on a mission, catching buses, jeepneys, motorbikes to get to work. Now, there are a lot of students out here, and right now I'm unaware of how many of them go to school and work. But all the women I've met have had occupations. But again, when you start talking about trying to do things exclusively online, you're rolling the dice. Now, a lot of the women's jobs on dating sites are just that, perusing the dating sites for opportunities. You've been warned. Agreeability. For me, so far, this is definitely a solid 10 out of 10. So in every scenario with all the women I've met, it's always been my decision to do everything. Now, this is not because I'm some type of like dictator, but the common phrase I get is whatever you want. So I'm the type of person, when I care, I go out of my way to try to make others feel comfortable. So I've grown to be adaptable and develop many interests. So I don't mind taking the back seat sometimes. Now, I go with the flow quite a bit, especially being in a new country. I want to experience as much as I can, but I'll leave things open sometimes. I'll say, what would you like to eat? Would you like to do this or that? Would you like to watch this or that? And the typical response I get is whatever you want. Your experiences might vary, but for me, I scored perfectly in this department. I appreciate you investing your time with me. If you find value in anything I mentioned today, go ahead and give a thumbs up so I know what content to make more of. Share it with a friend, subscribe to help grow the channel, and allow me to continue helping others. And feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of the information I covered in this video. This is Unpopular T, signing off. See you in the next one.